in the case of moral perversity, only in the case of persistent adultery. But the point being, once marriage is reduced to a legal contract, we get to determine the terms of the contract. We get to determine when to end it, how to dispose of it as we choose. Marriage is not just a legal issue. Well, if it's not a legal issue, then what is it biblically? Biblically, according to the Scriptures, listen to me, marriage is a theological issue. Marriage is a God issue. Look what Jesus says, verse 5. Jesus said to them, because of your hardness of heart, He wrote you this command, but from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. God has done something. God has taken action. The issue is not what does society say. The issue is what has God done. Verse 9, what therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what the judge may say, or what you may say, or what society may say. The issue is, what does God say about marriage? And so Jesus here is going to take them back to the beginning, back to Genesis, back to God's original intention of mankind, and tell them what it is God has said. What has God, the designer of man, said about this issue? Jesus is going to quote two passages from Genesis that define for us what marriage is in God's original intention. First of all, Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, which tells us that marriage is central to God's design for us as humankind. Notice what he says. From the beginning, God made them male and female. Now, folks, this is huge for our understanding of what marriage is all about. If you want to know what a thing is for, look to its design. If you want to understand what something exists to accomplish, look at its design. These glasses of mine are designed with a nose piece and a couple of lenses so I can see better, because right now you're a blurry mess, and earpieces that fit over my ears and hold the lenses in front of my eyes. They're designed for that purpose. They fit on my face so that I can see. They don't fit on my arm very well. They don't fit on my leg. They don't fit on my shoulder. They might fit on my head, but they don't do me any good at this point because you're still just a wave of blurry colors. The only way that they work so that I can see is if I use them according to their design. God, the designer, created mankind with a specific purpose and intent. God, the designer, we're told here, created man male and female. Man exists as two genders by the plan and purpose of God. Now, applying that, what am I saying? I'm saying to you, you are either male or female according to the design of God. You are one or you are the other. Mankind is designed in two genders. Several years ago at Boys Week at Bates Creek, an old country preacher was trying to make this point to the boys who were the campers that year. And I think he was a little bit embarrassed by the topic as a whole because he tried to get his point across with kind of a down-home illustration. He stood up and he said, now boys, you understand that bulls is bulls and cows is cows. A bull is not a cow and a cow is not a bull, but bulls is bulls and cows is cows, and you guys are bulls. There's a good point in there somewhere. And that point is this. Despite the incredible foolishness of our ridiculous age, you are male or you're female. You're not gay, and you're not lesbian, or transgender, or bisexual, or whatever else they may come up with. You are male, or you are female. That's simply the reality by God's own design. It's true of you. Now, it's also true that you may be confused. Sin does that. One of the things we've forgotten is that sin bends and warps and twists the mind. Causes things to look different than they really are. Causes people to feel things that are not true, that are false. Causes people to desire that which is wicked and destructive. Sin does that. If you're here this morning and you're confused about this, what you need to do is you need to get help. You need to come to me or one of our elders or someone else in spiritual authority, and you need to find out what it is that is broken, that has caused these feelings and desires that run contrary to nature and contrary to your design. But you are created as one or the other. I was reading an interesting article this week that the evidence has surfaced again, which we already understood from the beginning, that all of this talk in the last couple of years about homosexuality being rooted in the genes simply does not hold up with anything resembling adequate science. That it was a politically motivated statement and desire to find something that people wanted to find, but the evidence simply contradicts the whole idea. God made them male and female. Now, why male and female? Listen to this. Because God designed us with the idea of marriage and family in mind. That's what Jesus is saying in verse 6. God designed us with marriage in mind. Now, I understand that not everybody is going to get married. That's true. There's such a thing as celibacy. 1 Corinthians 7 talks about it. Some even have a gift to be content. I think of our friend Kim Nelson, who serves faithfully as a single woman has for these many years in Africa, content with that situation. But for most human beings, marriage is the point. It's a part of our very design. That brings us to the second passage. Genesis 2, verse 24, tells us that marriage, therefore, as designed by God, is defined by God. And God defines it in terms of one man, one woman, united together for life. Verse 7, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, shall cling to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they're no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. Oh, do you have any idea how significant it is? I tell my Old Testament classes this, that marriage and family enter into the human story at the very beginning point of creation. That when you go to Genesis, you find that as soon as God has made man and woman, Adam and Eve, the very next thing He does is join them together in marriage. Now, is that an accident? Did that just happen to be the flow of things? God made man and woman and said, well, we'll do this too. No, that was His design from the beginning. Look, in fact, with me. Genesis chapter 2, verse 22 to 24. Let's read the original text. God designed mankind and caused marriage to come about at the very entry point of man's existence in this universe. Genesis chapter 2, verse 22. It says, the Lord God fashioned into a woman the rib, or literally the piece of side, which He had taken from the man and brought her to him. The man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. For this reason, what reason? The fact that God created them for one another. The man shall leave his father and mother, be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Now again, do you think that's an accident? That this occurs as soon as God creates them? That God just happens to think of marriage at this point? That it's an afterthought? No. Marriage is the anchor point of human society. It is the very center of His plan that by the gift of common grace, the family would be the anchor point that would hold all other human relationships together. So that everything in our culture and everything in our nation will stand or fall based on the strength of our marriages and our homes. You understand that, right? You understand that no society that has ever existed has ever survived the destruction of its marriages and its homes. Nor can it survive their redefinition, as we'll see.